Listening back to the first recording, I really feel like I wasn't very articulate, like I wasn't really communicating very well. I think I have a problem where I can only speak to my friends. Because when I try and explain things to, like, my friend Tom, who's on the Triple Baka podcast, by the way, that I do on another channel, I feel like I can articulate things pretty well on the fly and just explain myself without even thinking about it. But if I ever am like live streaming, which I have done at least a few times, not that often, for my like Twitter Fur Affinity art audience, I have so much harder of a time actually explaining anything. So I think when I'm recording these, I should just like pretend that the person listening on the other end is like one of my actual friends, one of my friends that I can just say anything to, because that's kind of the relationship I want to be able to have with my audience. Is anything that's on my head is something that I should be able to say. There's no reason why I should have to think about the words that I'm saying ahead of time more than I do when I talk to my actual friends. Another thing with regards to this mini weird podcast is that I feel like a lot. I always say I feel like rather than asserting something is actually true. Maybe I'll get into that condition of mine later, but I feel like it would be so much better of an idea if I took the opportunity afforded by doing a solo podcast to not record this all at once, not in like one night. The first episode was all recorded in just a single sitting the night that I uploaded it. But a solo podcast, if I'm deciding to release it every week or so, could just be whenever I have a thought, whenever I'm feeling like rambling about something throughout the entire week, I can just record it and throw them all together in Audacity later. Because then you kind of get like, at the end of the week, you kind of get a scattershot recounting of various things that I was thinking throughout the week. So one thing that I'm thinking about right now is literature. Books. I'm getting learnt. I have always been hopelessly, I will say, addicted to YouTube. It's really a big problem for me. The amount that I watch YouTube, I always feel like I have to have something going on. I always have to be playing some sort of video in the background while I'm doing anything else. And I mean, that's not that bad. If I have a good lineup of like a number of videos, then it can just like keep my mind semi-entertained on whatever the fuck's going on in the videos, and then I'm able to just sit down and like do drawing for like a solid 8 hours. But if I don't have 8 hours of decent videos lined up, then I end up searching for all sorts of things. I'm kind of like, do I want to watch that video? Do I want to watch that video? And sometimes I'll click on a video and I'll just immediately be like, this is bad, and then I'll click off of it and I'll search some more. And that ends up really interrupting my process. It ends up kind of ruining everything. And I find it very difficult to just sit down and not listen to a YouTube video while I'm doing other things. It was a habit that started when I first got a job. When I was 18, I ended up getting a job at this Safeway nearby. It's not that close, it's pretty far away. But I ended up getting a job at this Safeway, which is just like a grocery store, and they have this nighttime position for a donut fryer. And I think I've talked about this before, at least somewhere else. If not on the Triple Baka podcast, which you can watch on another channel. That position was overnight. It was just me, nobody else. I was alone for basically 6 straight hours. And then 2 hours after, people started coming in. But even then, I really could just keep the headphones in and listen to whatever I wanted. I never had this YouTube problem before I had that job. It was only once I got that job, when I was forced to stay alone for 6 hours doing this repetitive, mindless job of just like, you press the buttons here, you put the donuts in the fryer, you put them on the plate, like you stock the shelves with this and that. None of this required any conscious attention. It was so easy for me to do. And so at some point, I realized, my phone has access to YouTube, I can actually get into podcasts. And this was around the time that I got into a creator called DigiBro. Now, big disclaimer, when I talk about DigiBro, I'll separate between DigiBro and Trixie /Yug Studio. This is, it's kind of a difficult one to explain, but for anybody who's unfamiliar with DigiBro or Trixie, Trixie, as of right now, is a content creator who was well known in the past for being a creator known as DigiBro, also Digital Boy 2000, way back in the day, possibly DigiBrony MLP. If you're a brony, you might recognize the DigiBrony name. But quite recently, not very recently, about a year ago, Trixie retired the DigiBro title and came out as trans around the same time. I guess she came out as trans a little while before retiring DigiBro, but she has gone on to basically say that DigiBro was a character who has died, who she considers separate from her current identity. Not that DigiBro was, basically, she has gone on to say that DigiBro should almost be considered a fiction, like a character separate from herself. And so, you know what? I'll respect that. I can respect that. DigiBro was always treated almost like an anime series, because DigiBro is an anime analysis channel, also known as an otaku gonzo journalist. But DigiBro always came in these arcs and had these, character development. It was very rich, very, very engaging as an audience member. But anyway, about DigiBro. Oh yeah, I just mean to say with that disclaimer that if I refer to DigiBro with male pronouns, I am referring to the character of DigiBro, not the artist behind such the character. Trixie herself, the artist behind DigiBro, is female. But anyway, about that. I got very into this creator known as DigiBro back when I was in high school. And I would occasionally watch DigiBro videos when I was at home. And occasionally, during a lunch break at school. This was still when I was in high school. But it wasn't long before I had graduated high school. And I wasn't too obsessively watching YouTube videos, even though there were many of them that I quite enjoyed. When I sat down to draw, I would not listen to a YouTube video. When I played games and stuff, I would not listen to YouTube videos. But all of that changed when I got this job at Safeway, where I was alone for 6 hours. I would just obsessively... DigiBro had this every video featuring DigiBro playlist. And if you knew anything about DigiBro, it was the fact that everything they had ever done online was out there, able to be watched. And so they had a playlist called Every Video Featuring DigiBro that had stuff that they had produced back when they were like a little child. Not like a little child, but like high schooler. Everything that they did in the Brony days. And whenever they removed a video, they wouldn't delete it outright. They would just privatize it. So all of their privatized videos, all of their old videos on other channels, their collaborations on other channels, podcasts they had recorded, and DigiBro had recorded tons of podcasts kind of my inspiration when it comes to this useless, time-filling, audience of one podcast sort of thing. I just decided to start throwing on the every video featuring Digibro playlist at work. And eventually I got into the Procrastinators, which was the podcast that they collaborated on with many of their other friends, back from the Brony days, formerly known as the Horseshoe Crew, but eventually evolving into a more generalized podcast known as the Procrastinators. So, yeah. While I was at this job, I got very used to listening to all these guys in the background, and combined with not only the fact that they made fantastic background noise, the Procrastinators and Digibro as a whole provided such inspiration to me. I started to almost become addicted to these podcasts and other videos that Digibro would make. Because whenever I listened to them, I felt so artistically motivated, like so much of what Digibro and the Procrastinators would talk about is themselves as artists. And going back to stuff that I said in the first episode, I think a lot of the reason why I want content like this, of just artists talking about whatever is on their mind, as if they were talking to one of their own friends, totally unfiltered. Uh-oh. My iPad that I'm recording this on went blank for a second. But a lot of the reason why I want content like this from artists is because I had witnessed it coming from Digibro and some of the other Procrastinators. And I do believe that this content was very, very inspiring to me at some point. It was a lot of the reason why I ended up quitting that job, and I ended up becoming an online commissions-focused artist. It's what kickstarted my entire online quote-unquote artistic career, if you can call it such a thing. But over time, the Procrastinators have failed, and all of my stake in this YouTube thing has ended up biting me in the ass, because Digibro has retired. Digibro, canonically, is the first person to ever die from a weed overdose. And so I'm left without a Digibro, and though Trixie created Digibro, Trixie is not Digibro. And so I'm left without this artistic voice in my life, and the Procrastinators have pretty much entirely split up and petered out. So there's just nothing like that in my life anymore, and I'm lacking that inspiration. I'm left without my heroes. And now I have only this addiction, left. I am addicted to listening to these YouTube videos that provide me some sort of internal artistic commentary, making me want to get off my ass and do some arting, really, really project my career. And in its place, I have nothing but endless aiming and searching of the catalog and waiting for that algorithm to give me something again, but it never comes. All I get is the waves of just shit YouTube content. A lot of people back in the day really hated Digibro in the anime analysis community because Digibro had quite a chip on their shoulder, but also an untamed egotism and arrogance. Digibro was infamous, I should say, for creating videos on their After Dark channel, known as, the most infamous one was just shit-talking anime YouTubers for almost a half hour. Oh god, what have I done? That was the name of the video, where they shit-talked other anime YouTubers for almost a half hour. Oh god, what has he done? Very arrogant. In that video, he famously exclaims, "I am the greatest anime YouTuber." And that's a lot of the reason why, I love Digibro. Because although they were egotistical, arrogant, very, very much shit-talked over everybody else in the community when they had the opportunity, it was only because they were in a certain category. I will not say all around, but in a certain category, they were the best of their kind. The best anime YouTuber of their kind. So much better at writing their kinds of scripts and making their kinds of commentary. And I don't know where I'm going with this. Shit. Oh yeah. They were the best of their kind. And there has not been another anime YouTuber of that type since Digibro died. I don't know. I think I had something to say, but I kind of lost track of what I was saying in the Digi narrative. I am my brain is permanently tied to Digibro. So for any listeners of this podcast, if you can call it such, you'll be hearing a lot about Digibro, basically forever. I am haunted by the memory of having been a Digi fan. Alright, I'm going to put this one on pause. I'll record some more of this later. So I definitely lost track of what I was saying before about books, literature, getting learnt. The whole point of that previous ramble was basically to establish why I have this YouTube problem. However, I think I have found the solution, and that is to read. Unbelievable. Turns out, books written by people who actually focus on specifically writing and packing their, literature full of meaningful content do a much better job of disseminating and proliferating useful information over YouTubers who mostly have to just care about whether or not their video is getting clicks, and how long people are watching. Books mostly have to worry about being useful in terms of the information, or at least engaging. It's just a much better way of actually learning things, and that's outside of the fact that I have this addiction to artists like Digibro and procrastinators of days gone, with getting inspired to do art. Most of my addiction to YouTube, I think, comes down to the fact that I want to be taking in new information. I want to learn things. Most of the YouTube content that I consume is mostly about, going over the histories of things, informing people about information they might not know, educational videos like Vsauce, Veritasium, Numberphile, etc., etc. I just really like information. I got an information overload going on almost all the time. And while I think books are a good way, the process of reading has been, I should say, training my mind to be able to construct things, with a little more effort, that effort of having to read something and keep an internal monologue of the words that you're reading, keep track of the specific order of the words, and the flow of information, being able to call back to the topic over and over again. Whereas in a YouTube video, just passively listening, it's so much more like turn your brain off sort of thing. Now, I'm not much of I guess, actually, no, that's a total lie. I am an iPhone bad boomer idiot. But I do appreciate technology. I do like technology. I just find myself having a very troubled relationship to I should say, the services of the new internet. A lot of the way that the internet was structured before, I say, the iPhone released, I resonate with a lot. I really like that whole philosophy. I've always wanted to switch to Linux, because I like the way that Linux and stuff works more than Windows. New technology is so centralized. It's so about this addiction, playing with your dopamine and other centers in your brain. I'm not very into cell phones. And so I guess I've developed a bad relationship with YouTube and stuff. And so the books, there's so many books written about anime. There's so many genuinely really informative things about anime and otaku culture. I recently found, I've heard of a book for a really long time called Otaku, Database Animals, or Japan's Database Animals, written by a Hiroki Azuma. It was published back in 2001 in Japan, but it didn't receive an English translation until, I believe, 2009 or 2007. It goes over so much. It was written by this scholarly kind of, philosopher guy. He talks a lot about postmodernism and Japan's history with pre-World War II to present. And he kind of uses this all as a framing to talk about the way that otaku culture is in Japan and the reasons why it is the way it is. And I've already, in just reading the first half of the book, some of the most, view-changing, the way that I will interpret anime has, forever changed. Almost a lot of the way that I, see the world. And this is the kind of content that I came to YouTube for. These are, the kinds of things. A lot of my favorite YouTube videos are, these otaku works, otaku gonzo journalism, I should say. These analytical works about otaku shit that change the way that I see it, or that change the way that I see video games. I would say that the way that I criticize internally, the way that my opinions form, have changed as a direct result to a lot of the YouTube videos that I watch. And that's the kind of stuff that I really love. That's stuff that can give you a new outlook, and I should say neutrally, it can alter the way that you see things. And after I get done with this book by Hiroki Azuma, I want to move on to a series of books by a Patrick Galbraith, who is not Japanese. They are, I'm pretty sure, just an American. And they've written several things, such as the Anime Encyclopedia, which is very difficult to find online for free. And their most famous one, I believe, is the Moe Manifesto. It's a very good title of a book. And these have so many interviews with, industry people and, influential figures in otaku history. It's written much more from the perspective of somebody who is a hardcore otaku, rather than Hiroki Azuma, who is kind of an outsider philosophy major, who just has an interest in otaku as an outsider. Patrick is through and through a hardcore otaku who has been an otaku for a very, very long time, and knows how to get to the heart of some more obscure information and anime history that nobody else would really know about. I do hope that in reading many of these works, the content that I make in the future on YouTube, which I am starting up right now, could be all the better for it. Because I honestly don't want to be an anti-tuber, as they call them. I don't want to be an anti-tuber who doesn't know what they're talking about. I don't want to be an anti-tuber who just has these surface-level opinions and recountings of what certain anime meant to me. I can write in that otaku gonzo style, but if I don't really have a deep knowledge, then I don't feel like it's worthwhile. Now, I'm definitely starting on the anime content as soon as I can, and I kind of want to optimize my video making style, so
if I wanted to, I could produce the video in a single day and have time left over to still draw things. Now, obviously, if something's more than like 6 minutes, it's not going to be the case. But I want to say, if a video was about 6 to 8 minutes, anything under 10 minutes, I should be able to produce it basically in one day and then still have time left over to work on my art. Because art is my primary thing that I do online. I'm accepting now. It's been a long time, but I finally accepted art is a job. It's a job of sorts. Now, that's not to say that when I draw things for no monetary incentive, I should treat it corporately like, oh, I'm trying to build my brand. When I draw, and it's not a commission, it's just something that I do for fun, that's not a job. It'll never be a job. I'll always experiment, have fun. If my art was taken away from me for monetary incentive, then I don't have much of a reason to live anymore, you know? That's kind of putting it extremely, but art means a lot to me. And I kind of hope that this anime YouTube thing can be another personal artistic outlet of a different kind, expressing what I believe some of the value of otaku culture is to me, and anime and everything. So I'm kind of producing this video right now, and listening back to it, I have the script, I have it recorded, I have it in the editing bay right now, and I'm probably going to get it done in like an hour. At least, you know, once I start working on it again. And it's just very basic. I don't know, my anime content is very basic. No, I mean, obviously it's the first thing I've ever fucking written, it's the first thing I've ever wrote on this subject. But it's just very basic. Now, looking around the rest of anime YouTube, now that Digi is gone, a lot of anime YouTube is very basic. And I guess Digi was right. I guess Digi was the greatest anime YouTuber of all time. Digi had been writing videos for well over 10 years at this point. Digi got their start back in, what is it? This is a very long time ago. Like, I want to say pre-2010, they had started writing an anime blog when they were a teenager. And they worked nonstop. Digibro, one of the most inspiring things about Digibro is that it was like every single day. They just didn't do anything other than write and like work on stuff and record podcasts. Like, they were always trying to find new information, and a bit of how I want to operate, I definitely model after that. You know, I'm not gonna totally copy Digibro, but they're definitely an inspiration. And so I just really want to get learned. You know, I'm 22 at this point, and I've been an anime fan for so long, and I've always had interest in the industry and the staff behind things and otaku culture history and all of that deep anime fan shit. And I just have never gotten around to it because I've been mostly just watching Digi content. I haven't been doing anything else but watching anime YouTube. And anime YouTube, they don't read books, they don't do anything. They just talk about their feelings. They shill Naruto online. And I love a lot of anime YouTubers. There's so many anime YouTubers who are really good. I'm not talking shit about anime YouTube, but in terms of that deep, you know, informed, you know, knowledgeable anime discussion, I don't think anime YouTube is really there. And I don't want to be that way too. I want to learn, and I want to be able to disseminate information and give it in a very approachable, mass consumable way. And that's not to say I hope to be the biggest anime YouTube channel of all time. Honestly, if I even reach 1K subs, I'll be amazed. But I just want that content to be out there. That's kind of how I feel about all my stuff, is I just want it to be out there. That's why I'm recording this right now. Is, like I said in the first episode, I don't really expect anybody to watch this. But I just want it to be out there. Now, also, to clarify about this little podcast, if anybody listening or viewing is worried about the fact that I record hours of this shit every week, I do believe that at least in a couple weeks, these episodes are going to be racking up the time. Like, possibly a couple, maybe even 3 hours with how much ideas I have for just stuff to ramble about. It doesn't take away from my time working on drawings or commissions or editing my videos or anything else, because this is the stuff that I do. First of all, there's literally no editing. I'm not editing this shit at all. I'm like removing the noise with a single pass filter, and then I'm just throwing it all into the editing bay and clicking render in a second. So no editing time for this, no prep time. I just, like, if I'm bored, I just sit down and I talk. And it's like, if I'm in the mood to just sit down and talk, I'm not getting work done anyway. If anything, this is taking away from the time that I would spend with my friends. But, you know, I don't know. I just want to have an audio log out there somewhere. But anyway, that's kind of why I want to get into literature, is because I feel like there's so much more information there than YouTube, and it's just better for my brain. It's just better for my ability to, like, process stuff, making me more literate and articulate. I do believe I've been speaking a lot quicker and more concisely than I was in the first episode, though obviously my rambling is quite circular and repetitive at times, but that's fine. Anyway, that's it for this segment.
I'll probably skip a full-blown technology insanity rant, but I've just always wondered if something like the Matrix scenario actually played out. Don't you think it would be far more likely to place humans in what would virtually be unending, infinite paradise than a recreation of the 1990s that never ends? It would practically be immoral to revolt against the robots that are using all the humans as batteries if you are plunging them into a world which is infinitely worse than whatever simulation the robots have come up with. Not only would it be immoral, nobody would want to rise up against the robots. Why would the robots not place humans in paradise? It would require no more processing power than simulating the 1990s. In fact, why would the 1990s just loop forever? I don't get it. At least I'm pretty sure the movie said that they placed them in a simulation of the 1990s that looped forever. There's nothing else to say. I just wanted to record that. This might become sad boy hours. The background music for this episode will probably either be the Guts theme or that one jazz version of that song from Phoenix Wright. You know the one. Because, well, I started listening to the Procrastinators again. I know, I'm obsessed. I promise mentioning of the Procrastinators and Digibro and Trixie and all these other fucking things. I promise they will not persist every single time I open my mouth. But this time, they will happen again. In one of these recent episodes, Ben Saint, comic legend, was just doing a total character takedown of Trixie. You know, just really letting out all of their frustrations. And one of those things was talking about Trixie's old girlfriend, May, who Ben described as a personality chameleon. And I won't go into all the specifics of that. It's just some stupid drama. But the mentioning of it kind of, I guess, shed light on something that has always been on my mind without me ever having actually put words to it. And it goes back. It kind of runs deep. I'm sure the personality chameleon is somebody that we've all had run-ins with. You know, I used to know one. My friends have met them. I'm sure most people have at one point or another met a person like this. Because they're not uncommon. I would even go as far as to say, I think most people have a little bit of a personality chameleon inside of them. It's a normal human trait to curtail the way that you speak to who you're talking to. And often that can become not just trying to translate, things that you want to say into their language, if you know what I mean. It can also become almost curtailing who you are to who you're talking to, so that they'll respond to you better, because everybody wants to be liked. I used to hate myself for that. Back in high school, I was really dishonest because I guess it kind of runs deep. When I was pretty young, I would often do things and people would respond to them negatively, and even sometimes I would say just things about myself and my mom would respond negatively. Like, she was so upset with me when I said I was an atheist. And she was really upset with my older brother when he came out as gay. And all of these things just kind of taught me to, maybe I shouldn't be myself, So in high school, at this point, it had already been ingrained into me, and even though I couldn't maintain relationships for people who couldn't mostly accept me for who I am, because I've never been good at social things, it kind of takes a person who intuitively understands social cues to be able to totally change yourself in response to, social cues. But I would still have this feeling that I didn't recognize consciously to curtail myself to the people who would be friends with me. And in that way, I felt like I was very dishonest. I felt like I was almost manipulative. I was never trying to manipulate people, though. I just wanted friends. But I think I hated myself for this. I couldn't really consciously recognize why I hated myself, but I really hated myself. I felt like I was a bad person. And I think I felt like a bad person because I wasn't being honest with people. It was so intense that back in high school, I was almost suicidal. In fact, I would go as far as to say that I was suicidal. I just simply never actually went through with it. Don't worry, I'm doing better now, I assure you. Though I guess I would have told you the same thing in high school. I'm being honest now, okay? This is a story about honesty. I hated myself because what felt so bad is that people responded very positively to this, and it brought me good things. I maintained relationships with people that I thought were very valuable friends, except for a couple of them who I didn't really care about. So I felt like I was being manipulative, because I didn't feel like I was telling the truth. There's that part of you that knows when you're not telling the truth. It's like, what those lie detectors try to read is your natural response to telling lies. I had that feeling, combined with the fact that it turned out good for me. So I was being rewarded for, in my eyes, what felt like being a bad person. And that part of me never really has gone away, That part of me that fears the response of, just being myself and then getting negative feedback for it, everything going wrong. It's something I've heard. There's lots of stories of people who would just be reinforced. Their parents would be like, oh, just totally be yourself. Anything you do is good. And then they end up being like total narcissistic, awful people, or at the very least stupid enough to just think that they can never fail. I mean, I guess it's good that didn't happen to me, but this is something that I have to get over. And it ultimately culminated, I think, what made me finally realize that this is what I didn't like about myself.
So, I was listening back to the recording, and I don't really like the way that I explained this coming part, so I'm going to try and explain it again. The thing that culminated in this, reframing of this feeling internally, of, feeling like I always need to, sort of curtail myself to the people who are friends with me, or make sure that I always present a likable, not completely, but somewhat personalized version of myself that will be received better, I think. The reframing of that into something that I don't feel the need to do, or even a very, very negative trait. Beyond the fact that I feel it's dishonest, I met this person who was a very troubled individual. I will describe them as. They are a hardcore normie. And when I say normie, I'm talking about the kind of person who is emotionally reliant on their perception of themselves as a normal person. I don't think that being a normie has much to do with whether or not you are a normal person. It has how much you think you're a normal person, how much you want to be a normal person. This person was extremely, extremely abnormal. Very, very bizarre, out there person. But they, to an unbelievable degree, just wanted to be normal. They couldn't handle not being normal. They wouldn't allow themselves to like anything that wouldn't have them be accepted if they told others that they liked it. This is the kind of person who, when they see themselves in a mirror in VR chat and it doesn't show their actual face, they have a mental breakdown after realizing that they enjoyed that. That oh no, I can't get immersed in the fiction, cause then I'll become a weirdo, and they just totally break down. I met a person like that, but it wasn't apparent to me at first that they were that way, and they were at first a very close friend of mine. So, we grew together more and more because we would talk all the time. This person was pretty attached to me because they didn't have a lot of other friends. And over time, this tendency of mine to want to make sure that I'm, personalizing myself to this person because, they liked me, I liked them, so, I kind of wanted to, make sure that I was likable, But in doing so, instead of it being that I got positive things out of this dishonesty, all I got was this increasing feeling like I'm destroying myself. I didn't care about the dishonesty anymore. I cared about the fact that I felt like I was almost ruining myself. And eventually the social tension just became too much and I had to cut this person out of my life, and that was really what kicked off this just removing all my online friends.
I don't really want to be friends with these internet people anymore, because I just want to go back to my real friends, you know? The people that I met in high school, they know me so much more than anybody who I've ever met online. Mostly because online relationships are just, like I said, like a revolving door of new personalities all the time. And I recognize that that's my fault, because I'm the kind of personality that, like, I speak when spoken to. I don't reach out unless, like, you're really, like, a close person to me. And the people who are close to me are my high school friends. They're not the people that I have met online through doing art. So all of those people, I'd rather just simply be an artist to them. I would rather people online didn't think of me as a potential friend. Because I just want to strengthen my relationships with my old friends, you know, and I want to be just totally myself more. That's why I'm expressing all this random shit online. That's why I'm starting to go harder on art, because I want the art to say more about my own personality, and I want to put all my shit out there. I'll go into this in the next recording, because I've whatever, you get it. As part of the aforementioned character takedown of this Trixie personality, Trixie is a person who is insufferably themselves. Almost the total opposite of a personality chameleon. They're the person who won't even recognize that it's possible to act like anybody but themselves. To the point where, well, I don't have to go into the deep lore. I've followed Trixie far more than any person should follow any internet personality. But I think a lot of the reason I idolized Trixie so much back in the Digibro days was because of that tendency. And I honestly think Trixie doesn't reflect that as much as the Digibro personality did. Because Trixie seems very taken aback from how it's turned out for them, I think. I don't know why I'm saying them. I guess I just say that for a lot of people without thinking about it. But I guess with regards to Digibro, I idolized that because of that residual feeling I had back in high school of disliking this chameleon aspect, as I keep calling it. Because I saw that with Digibro, they were so egotistical, they were so even somewhat arrogant, and just totally, to a fault, unwilling to not be themselves and just have every aspect of themselves put out there. And I saw that, and it was on some level unconsciously, but later very, very consciously inspiring. That while they did experience a lot of pushback early in life, you know, from others for their idiosyncratic ways of speaking and just being weird, just being a fucking weirdo, it eventually ended up working out. That they just kept at it, and they were themselves so hard for so long that eventually they had carved out their little place in the world, you know, and they were a success. They were like one of the largest anime YouTube channels, well, you know, of their kind. Anime analysis. They were no anime man, for sure. For anybody unfamiliar with the AniTube world, the Anime Man is a multi-million subscriber channel compared to the analysis guys who typically only have about 500k at most. 500k is a whole lot, though. It's a whole fucking lot to me. Anyway, I saw that about Digibro, and I thought it was very inspiring. But this takedown that Ben, one of the procrastinators, has done now about Trixie. They had a falling out, and Ben just hates Trixie and everything about her now. Because of some personal feud about a lot of things. I don't know, behind the scenes stuff that nobody ever saw. Such a cap has been placed on the Digibro life. Like, first of all, Digibro canonically is dead now. And Trixie herself is, I guess what most people would call, in layman's terms, washed up. It's just so many baffling decisions. So much. As I said before, those personalities where they get told everything that they do is good and, you know, is going to be great, that they're geniuses. They get told that by their parents, you know. Eventually, they just don't realize when they're making decisions that are just awful. And so in that way, it didn't work out. But I guess I've sort of moved on a bit, or I should say I've accepted that this is the fate of Trixie. And in that way, I got this feeling when I was listening to the Ben takedown. For the first time, I think I've ever felt it. And I'm gonna try and articulate this better. I'm kind of rambling really, really aimlessly. The feeling I got with this was this sense of curiosity, where like, if I really, really tried to make something of my career online, if I tried and really, you know, start like my own little career like this, you know, as an anime YouTuber and an artist and all these things, if I tried to just go all in as hard as, like, you know, Trixie went with Digibro, because she worked nonstop, you know, constantly, all the time. Like, that was the thing that she always said to everybody. If you want to be a success, never stop working. And she almost worshipped working. It was all she liked to do. It was the most fun thing to be writing and making videos and just like all the time, nonstop. The Digibro catchphrase was like human content machine, because it was daily, you know, and it was good shit. It wasn't like she wasn't trying. If I tried, you know, if I just allowed myself to see what would happen if I totally went all in. That's the curiosity I felt. Like, just seeing all the baffling decisions going on, I wondered, like, how would my career end? You know? Would people care as much as they cared about the end of Digibro? Would people be so emotionally invested? And in what way would they be? And what would have led to my downfall? You know, maybe that's weird, but that's a motivating feeling. You know, to realize that I can't know how it'll end unless I really, really try. I feel like that's what I've needed to wonder. Because I've had all these grand aspirations in my head, you know, forever. Back when I first became an internet artist, when I quit that Safeway and I started to become an internet job guy, what I wanted to just start working, and then I would imagine, like, oh, in several years I'm gonna be a big artist guy, and I would always have these imagination things going on of like picturing how it would end up for me. But I never was excited about actually finding out how it would really turn out, because there's always that uncertainty of like, you know, you can imagine things, but so much is unaccounted for. You don't know how it's really going to pan out. And I think something that I again didn't realize, but just subconsciously became the way that I worked, is I didn't want to try too hard. I never really wanted to get started. I just wanted to stagnate forever so I could keep imagining my future without ever actually having to confront that uncertainty. And now that I see that, you know, all my inspirations are dead, you know, DigiBro is dead, you know, procrastinators fell apart. It's just the two guys now, and they just talk about whatever's going on in their boring lives. And now I wonder, like, how would it end for me? And you know what? I can't know the answer to that unless I actually get there. And that curiosity just totally made me realize that I never did actually want to see how it would happen. I only wanted to imagine. I guess these two things, you know, the personality chameleon and the stagnation imagination thing. I don't have a good catchy phrase for that second one, but realizing both of these things, I think is really what I needed to just sit down and fucking start working. Just never stop working. I gotta put myself out there. I have to be willing to realize that just if I want to actually get anywhere as an artist online, if I really want to put my all into it, I have to be open to the fact that being an artist means expressing yourself. And people are going to see that, and people aren't going to like it all the time, probably. You know? And some people are going to have pretty negative feedback. And I have to just accept that, like, if they're giving me negative feedback, at least they're giving it about who I actually am, you know? People have the right to dislike me and give me negative feedback. People have the right to make judgments about who I actually am, you know? Maybe I am a fucking idiot. Maybe I am not talented. Maybe I make stupid decisions. Maybe I'm arrogant. Maybe I'm egotistical. And any number of other things that you could possibly interpret about me. But I should be willing to show that about myself. Because I can't make art without showing things about me. And that, I think I gotta start. I don't know how to end this rambling, but I think you get the point now. Well, I'm gonna go watch anime then. I'll end this recording now.